Had a friend ask me for a ride because she was in a sketchy neighborhood. I complied and picked her up, had a fun night, and took her home. I find out she left her wallet at a store we went to. I decide to be a good friend and go for it after I had already arrived home. The store was a fair distance away from my house and I was already in bed since it was fairly late. I go to pick it up, and when I get there I try calling her. I find out I'm blocked on Instagram and my phone number. 3 days go by and I ask a mutual friend if she had posted on her story. Come to find out she did. The worry about her being okay leaves my mind. Her ex-BF attempts to text me on Instagram. I don't reply. She texted me today asking for her wallet. I decide, okay, I'll give you your wallet. I call the police and ask if they can drop it off, fully knowing we are in different cities, so she would have to drive to my city for it. The police come. They call her and tell her she has to drive 30 minutes from her house if she wants to pick it up. Lol. The amount of anger and frustration that came from the phone was satisfying as hell. As a background, at the production lines, whenever something has to be cleaned or changed, we have to write the duration, start time and end time into the log. The problem is, whenever a disturbance, repair, or maintenance lasts longer than 30 minutes, we have to relay that to supervisor and tell them so that they can pass it on to everyone in management. Usually we just write 30 minutes for everything that isn't important to avoid reporting to our boss. We always report the important changes, but for things like cleaning, it just seems like unnecessary work for everyone involved. So a few weeks ago my boss came down to the shop floor and we had to change a filter at the line. Now, this isn't hard to do, but it takes a long time to disassemble the necessary parts, change the filter, and then reassemble everything. We finished everything in 40 minutes and continued the production. We went ahead and wrote 30 minutes into the log, and our boss came over and was furious after seeing the book and how we deceived him and falsified documents with our work. The logbook wasn't official like contracts or protocols. It was simply a recommendation by the management to help keep an eye on problems that got integrated into our working process, so everyone naturally just does it since it's been around for 5 years now. He demanded that we write the exact times form now on and have everyone present sign on them. Before we could even ask him if that included everything, he was already out the door. So we did. Whenever we cleaned anything we recorded the time and then sent a notification to our boss and brought him the paperwork that involved where you had to justify why whatever you did took over 30 minutes. He then had to mail everything to the floor manager and his colleagues every time. So even if we just cleaned the floor next to the machines we reported to him. The facility is roughly 10,000 m², so cleaning can take a while. Within 2 weeks he came down to the shop floor to tell us to do it like we did before, since his boss started to inquire about the increase of reports and the unnecessary paperwork he was sending. So when you take a several week course or training that is not at your local parent command, you typically are allowed per diem, which is a specific amount of money per day based on the area that you are at. Usually it is just given to you in total regardless of what you spend, so a lot of people will try to eat very cheap and make some side cash for the trip. Well, this particular place is too close to my parent command, but also still far enough away where it counts. The rules in this circumstance state that I must show a receipt and be paid for exactly what I spend, no more than $40 per day. So for 2 weeks straight I went to the local commissary and purchased $40 worth of groceries to stock up. After it was all said and done, I drove home with $400 worth of groceries, rather than buying breakfast, lunch and dinner in the area. Felt good to get something out of it. So I was working overnights at a convenience store by myself. This isn't your run-of-the-mill convenience store that sees 10 customers all night, but the kind that has people in and out all night. It was a pretty busy night, and around midnight I had a line of people at my counter, about 5 to 10 deep. Person at my register would like to purchase some Newports and cigarillos, a pretty common purchase. Only problem is, she didn't have an ID. I refused to sell them to her, and she got pretty upset. She started yelling at me and demanding that I sell her the requested tobacco products. After continuing to refuse, she proceeds to demand that I call the police to have them come and instruct me to sell her these products. Now, as I stated before, I had another 5 to 10 people in line and growing. It's just me by myself. So I grabbed the phone and handed it to her and asked if she knew the number. She snatched it from me and proceeded to call 911. When the police finally did show up, I'm not sure what they said to her because I was still ringing people out in line, but they came into my store and she didn't. They proceeded to grab their free drinks and walk back out without a word to me except for, "Have a great night." When I was fresh out of college and moved back home to save up money to pursue my career, I got a job at a chain restaurant server that was super corporate, but I made some friends for life and met my wife there, and it was a page in the book. At one point in my term there, we had a staff meeting where we were sat down and told we had to add everyone, no exceptions, no matter how old they looked, if they were buying alcohol, as it was somehow some part of a BS law that was either new or just now going to be enforced, not by the company rather by the regulatory agencies. This sort of thing is a nuisance because I'm not going to fall for 3 kids stacked in a trench coat. I know when and when to add based on appearance, and take my ego out of this, the people you would have the same feeling about it, 80 years old people giving me the "are you serious" look while questioning my intelligence despite me trying to explain I'm required to do it. Of course the pushback became tiresome, and wouldn't you know it, the first time I decided to let it slide and did not demand it was for a 60-something-year-old judge who let my manager know I neglected my duty. After the table left, I got chewed out by the manager, written up, and he emphasized that no matter what, if there was alcohol in the drink I would demand it or be fired. Fine. My bad. Never again. A couple weeks later, and I'm bartending. I serve there as well as tended bar, and I get a guy who has been in before, but is a cantankerous old pest who the regulars have even complained about. He asks for an O'Dowell's, and without even thinking I ask for it. I realize what I'd done, as O'Dowell's is considered a non-alcoholic beer, since it's less than 0.5% alcohol, but this guy's an ever-tipping leech, and the same manager who issued the edict that anything with alcohol requires it was on duty. Funnily enough, he had forgot his id. Perfect. So I stood fast, and it led to him asking for manager. My favorite regulars bore witness to me stating my case for the angry manager under fire and his back and forth with the angry leech, and ultimately, since I followed orders, I was absolved of guilt and made extra cash. Since my regulars always showed appreciation for some spectacle, my manager hated the situation from all sides and just asked me to please find a way to navigate this policy till the lunacy is over. That confrontation between a man who felt he shouldn't have to show it for a non-alcoholic beer, which actually had a minute amount, and someone who had made his bed by not considering this potentiality and drawing a line, was too satisfying, but only caused both victims deserved some heartache. Today in my state, at most places I go, they say, if you look over 35 you're good. Right after high school, I had a crappy job working the graveyard shift at a gas station or convenience store. A friend at the time who worked there, we'll call her Mary, helped me score the position. Because of the late hour, it wound up being mostly janitorial stuff between the odd half-drunk 3 AM customers that would pop in and out. I quickly learned that the friend had a terrible work ethic, as I'd end up covering for her when she showed up late or taking care of the duties that she neglected during her shift before mine. It was annoying, but not enough to really say anything. So, as time goes on, presumably to save payroll costs, our manager starts cutting hours. Day shift, which usually included 2 people, was changed to 1 person, and to keep from having to fire the regular day person, that person got swapped to night. I come in one day to relieve Mary and check the new schedule to find that my schedule had been cut to 16 hours. I walk out of the office already steamed and tell Mary it's hardly worth keeping this job. I've been cut down to 16 hours. I can't even pay my bills with that. Mary, without looking up from her magazine, at a time when she was supposed to be doing her evening cigarette count, guaranteeing that I would end up doing it for her. That's cool. More hours for me. Me. Oh, you want more hours? I walked out the door and never looked back. I checked with another friend later and found out that she wound up working a 17-hour double and missed a date with some guy. The moral of the story, I suppose, is to be careful what you say to the guy whose presence is getting you laid and allowing you to sleep. Thank you for watching. Slap that like button and comment your opinion on these stories below. I'm waiting. Write that comment. Seriously. Have you written it yet? If you don't comment, you make a bunny cry somewhere. You're not that kind of person. I know. Anyways, peace out and catch you tomorrow.